Meet the star of tonight's show, the Newfoundland snow crab. Well, our star may have gone to pieces, but the show must go on. And the snow crab industry in Newfoundland is a big show indeed. 28 million pounds of it were landed here last year. The value? Nearly $8 million. The crab fishery can make a big difference in the 11 communities around the province that have crab plants. Many of them are small inshore fishing towns, like Bay de Verde on the Avalon Peninsula. With the ups and downs we've been having with the inshore cod, it's nice to have something more reliable to fall back on. And the crab fishery is reliable. It only started 13 years ago, but today it provides jobs for nearly 2,000 plant workers. 300 of those plant workers live in or around Bay de Verde and work in the plant owned by Quinlan Brothers. Since the crab boats fish from March to December, this plant is going full steam most of the year. Last year, 1.5 million pounds of crab meat was produced here. A short visit inside shows that that kind of production comes from efficiency and hard work. Everything starts at the butchering tables, where the crabs are cracked in two. The halves are tossed on a conveyor belt and carried along into a large cooker. Once the meat is cooked, the crab is carried slowly through a long tank of cool water. By now, the pale orange shell has turned bright red, and the crab is ready for the processing lines in the main part of the plant. No part of a crab's body, the legs, the claws, or the midsection, gets through this place without making a contribution. First on the hit list are the claws. They are snapped off and dropped into plastic boxes. The rest of the crab, the body and legs, are put in another box, weighed, and then put on ice. We'll get back to them later. The claws are run over a special saw. Only a fraction of an inch of the blade is exposed. It cuts through the shell, but not the meat. Half the shell is removed, leaving the white meat uncovered. The claws are then frozen and sold as cocktail snacks. Now for the rest of the crab. The legs and bodies are brought to another part of the plant, where the legs are pulled off and laid aside. These ladies also collect whatever meat is left in the bodies, and the few claws that sneak through. This meat is sold as crab salad. No, we haven't speeded up the film. These women actually work this fast. Their quick hands feeding crab legs into small ringers. As the shell is pulled through, the meat is squeezed out. And we didn't see one flattened finger in the crowd. The legs will be packaged with salad meat, but before that's done, one final check has to be made. The salad is run through an inspection area under an ultraviolet light. If there's any shell or anything else that doesn't belong, it will show up here, and it can be easily picked out. The end of the line, The crab meat is cut up into blocks and packaged. The yield in a crab plant is usually around 20%. That means for every 5 pounds of whole crab that comes in, 1 pound of meat comes out. But it seems that in these times, no matter how busy and efficient things are, there always have to be those uncertainties, those uncomfortable rumors that something is going wrong. The crab fishery is no exception. Everyone in the plants have heard it. Talk that catches are getting lower and lower. The crab stocks are on the way down. The traditional crab grounds, 8 to 10 miles from shore, weren't giving up the big catches anymore, and the boats were being forced to go farther and farther from shore. Those were the rumors early in the season. Most people thought the crab industry was in serious trouble. One of those people was Dave Taylor, the crab specialist with Federal Fisheries. But as the season went on, he changed his mind.
With the heavy fishing effort that we've seen off the Avalon in particular, the stocks are going to go down and consequently catch rates are going to be lower. However, one thing that I should mention is that the catch rates are still what has been deemed commercially acceptable. In other words, they're getting more than 15 pounds per pot. They're still getting between 30 and 35 pounds. It's just a question now of fishermen becoming used to very high catch rates and wanting to continue them. Of course, when they hear that 50, 60 miles offshore, there's fantastic catch rates. With the vessels they have now, they're going to go out.
There are only 51 licenses in the province. Is that all that the fishery can bear? Is it? I know that a lot of fishermen have been looking for crab licenses. Can the fishery take much more than that?
At the present rate of exploitation per vessel, no. If a scheme was to be arrived at whereby there were individual boat quotas where vessels were restricted in the amount they could catch, well, of course, you could divide the pie up in many smaller pieces, but then the attractiveness of it goes downhill, and your capitalization of your fleet as a whole goes way up, and if there is a failure in the fishery, that many more people are affected.
One of the 51 crab boats in the province is this unusual-looking craft, a 65-foot steel boat equipped with outriggers. Even her name is unusual, the Scoby J. It's a combination of the first few letters in the names of her previous owners. The most striking feature of the Scoby J are her tall, white outriggers. She used to be a shrimp dragger down in Florida, and the booms were used to tow the nets. The nets are now gone, but as you'll see, the outriggers still serve a useful purpose. The Scoby J is one of 8 crab boats that supply the Bay de Verde plant. She's owned by Reg Petton of Portagrave. He bought her for $500,000 last winter, then fitted her out for crab fishing off Newfoundland.
We had to make a lot of changes. We spent quite a bit of time on it, quite a bit of money. Well, we had to take all the back riggings off, and we had to put new hydraulics on it. It's just stuff like that. And we're at it now to cut the tanks, the back tank out, to make more room down the hole. There's air conditioning on now, but I don't say if I'll use it. When I got her, I had to put the furnace in her when we got her down. So I got that working pretty good.
One thing Reg didn't change was the outriggers. Attached to each one are small metal weights, shaped like airplanes. They're stabilizers, and they'll come into play later when the Scoby J reaches the crab grounds. The outriggers themselves are lowered before leaving Bay de Verde Harbor. That'll give the boat a better trim while she's steaming to the grounds. Reg Pettin has been a crab fisherman for 13 years. Like everyone else, he started fishing a few miles from shore. But during the last couple of years, he's had to go farther and farther out to make the big catches. Right now, his pots are set 50 miles and 6 hours steam away.
Now, when you first started back 12 or 13 years ago, was there a lot of crab around these grounds then?
Oh, there was nobody out there, and we was never out there. Last fall was the first time ever we've been out there just for fishing. Usually 10 mile off of the Cape, 20 mile. As far as ever we was last fall we came out here.
How come you started coming out this far? 60 miles is a lot different from 8 or 10 miles.
Yeah, the crab slacked off inside. Where we always had the crab. Last year we couldn't get a thing down the last of it, so we had to do something. We had to move off or something. So now the same thing in the spring. There was nothing inside, so we had to come out there again.
The Scoby J is licensed for 800 crab pots. Reg keeps rough notes on where he sets out his gear, but they're not exact. When he reaches the area, he has to do a little steaming around to find them. The job is made that much harder when there's a thick of fog. Only radar can see through this stuff, searching out the metal radar reflectors on the marker buoys. Sometimes you have to cover quite a bit of water, and in this fog, it takes a lot of patience and more than a little luck. Steaming through heavy fog, it helps to have extra eyes scanning ahead. This is a crowded patch of ocean. 22 crab boats fish in this area. There are hundreds of radar reflectors. You can only trust your radar so much. That blip up ahead could be a reflector, or it could be something else.
I take it you don't like working in fog?
No, sir, I don't. No, I like working in fog. Unless you had something, you had a decker, you might do it, but just the radar and that, you got a job to do it. What there is now, I don't know if they're striking this time or not.
Now, if it's clear weather, I guess you can do it mostly by sight, can you?
Oh yeah, do it by sight then. I mean, most of it anyway. You can see a mile when it's clear, no trouble. You know what you're doing. Oh, that's a boat.
There's a boat, yeah.
I thought it was a reflector.
See him as he goes by. But look, he didn't come too close to him.
Thought it was a reflector.
Would have been a rude dart if we were a little bit closer.
There's something else up ahead. This time it's what we're after. A reflector and 2 buoys, marking one end of a fleet of crab pots. Each fleet has 60 pots strung along the ocean floor. Reg steams on until he spots the buoy at the other end of the fleet. With so much gear in the water, each fleet has to be clearly marked, both with numbers and with letters. Reg checks to make sure it's one of his fleets. The letters on the float are TBB, the initials of Reg's old boat, the Trudy B. Buster. Before the fleet is hauled, the stabilizers are dropped. These 90-pound weights will keep the Scoby J from rolling in the swell.
What we have been out, the wind we have been out in, it seems like they're good for out. Even when there's a swell in the water, this steadies the boat up quite a lot.
Is there much difference having those on this boat as your other boat, which of course didn't have them?
No, we didn't have them, and now we got them. I wouldn't want to be without them for anything. We haven't had them that long either, but I wouldn't want to be without them now for anything.
What's the difference now? What was it like on your other boat?
It's a lot of difference from what we're used to now. I don't know what this one would be. I guess this one would be rough too if when they've had stabilizers on it. But the stabilizer makes a lot of difference. They say it cuts back 80% of the roll, and I believe it too.
As the crab pots are hauled aboard, they are emptied into the hold. There, they're packed into plastic boxes and stored. The crabs are also culled. Anything less than 3 3/4 inches wide in the body must be culled out and put in a separate box. Once each pot is emptied, it's passed back to another crew member to be baited and stacked. Crab fishermen usually use 2 types of bait, mackerel and squid.
Pots were all the day now. Some of them had squid in them, some had mackerel, just squid and mackerel. More just had mackerel alone. The ones with the squid and the mackerel in was a lot better than the ones with the mackerel alone. It seems like squid is the best bait. Have been for a good many years. Well, ever since now squid have been on the go. The last 4 or 5 years squid have been the best bait.
How do you know where to find crab? How do you know where the crab hangs out?
All year round. You put your pots down and try it. You can put your pot down, you wouldn't get a thing, and you can put your pot down, get lots of it there. So you just put your pots out and try it, and somebody will come out there and try it, and they'll get the crab, and then all the boats, all the boats will come in. It could be you wouldn't get anything, well, you'd have to shift somewhere else. The crab is not everywhere.
Even though the pots are baited as soon as they're empty, the fleet won't be put out again right away. Reg will usually steam several miles to a new spot before he puts each fleet back in the water. He'll leave it in the water 2 or 3 days before he hauls it again. This fleet has been in the water for 4 days, and it's fished well. There are about 40 pounds in each pot. With crabs selling for 29 cents a pound, that's about $12 worth in every pot. Crab also makes for a clean, easy fishery. No long hours bleeding and gutting. But you can get yourself into trouble.
Ivan, you gotta be careful how you handle these things or what?
Well, you got to watch your fingers, you know. See if you get a good grip with them.
What happens?
Yeah, they grab your boys so fast. You got to let them break off their claws in order to get clear of them, eh? They hold right on.
You ever been bitten by one?
Oh yes, I've had a few scratches with them.
They'll give you a bruise, will they?
Some of them big ones probably give you some nip. You got to twist that right off there, look. If you didn't, they won't let go. Once they get show.
Yeah. So what do you do?
What we do is we twist that off. You got to break that off, eh? So.
When you steam over 50 miles to fish, you don't go home when night comes. You stay on the grounds, working until all the pots are hauled. There's no rush to get the crab back to the plant. They'll stay alive more than a day, even without ice. On the Scoby J, they don't even need ice. Her hold is refrigerated and covered with 8 inches of insulation. There are more fleets to be hauled, but they'll wait till tomorrow. A short tune from Ivan, then a few hours sleep. Early next morning, the Scoby J steams off for another fleet. Because it's only a few miles, the stabilizers are left in the water, even though they tend to slow the boat a little.
Oh yeah, they slow you down quite a bit. I don't know how much, maybe half a knot, I guess. I know they slow you down quite a bit, more especially if there's any wind. If you had to punch, they slow you down quite a bit.
Now your deckhands, the fellows who had to work out on the deck in the swell, do they find much difference working with the stabilizers as when you didn't have them?
Oh yeah, they find a lot of difference. We haven't been at it that long. We've only had this our second week now, and we haven't had to tie a pot on yet. And when you're stacking them, last year sometimes you stacked maybe 8 or 10 pots, you'd have to tie them fast to the rail where they wouldn't go across the deck. But we haven't had to tie a thing on it yet. A lot of difference.
This fleet has only been in the water a couple of days, and the crab isn't as plentiful as yesterday.
How much did you get all together this trip now?
We got about 295 boxes. That's about 55 pounds a box.
Is that a good catch for a 2-day trip like this?
Well, it was a good catch, but there's a lot of gear. We never a lot of pots. We had a lot of gear to catch that. We never used to have all that much pots, not for crab like that. We only have all maybe 3 or 4 fleets last year for that. A lot of hauling. Last fall you'd come out there and throw out your pots and wait for 4 to 6 hours. You could pull off 100 boxes, 90, 100 boxes in some fleets, no problem.
Does that worry you, or is crab like that? Does it come and go like that?
I haven't seen it come and go, not like this before. First time I've ever seen it. So I don't know, the wires maybe. Then nobody don't know nothing about it, but I don't know what it's going to be. The crab is pretty scarce. There's 4 boats here now in this area, and they find it pretty scarce, and the boats inside us find it the same thing, pretty scarce.
How long will you keep it up?
Well, it's like every other year we'll be out till Christmas, but the way she's going now, I don't know how long it'll be. Unless they take us on, and we're not allowed to be out very long.
Unless you get more crab walking into those traps.
That's right, unless we get more crab going into them pots. We're not allowed to be out very long because it's not. You can't come off here every day unless you get a good lot of crab to pay for your expense.
Well, it's a long season yet to go, so hopefully things are going to get a lot better.
I hope so.
Reg made this trip back in the spring, and the catch was 17,000 pounds. Since then, things have gotten better. On one trip this fall, the Scoby J hauled in 40,000 pounds of crab. Crab landings for the province will likely be only a little less than last year. The crab fishermen themselves want to keep the stocks healthy. They cull out the undersized crabs and keep an eye out for the females with their clusters of bright orange spawn. They're returned to the sea by the boxload. Hopefully, they will allow the crab fishery to remain what's become something of a rarity nowadays, a healthy and a profitable fishery.